Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome to the Nerd Party's Super Sounds of Tarantino. And here's our first hit, Reservoir Dogs. I'm your host, Tristan Riddell, and joining me are my co-hosts, the White Soul singer himself, John Mills, and a man who sold out a folk festival in front of a sea of corduroy, Darren Moser. Stick around so you can hear all the colors of the rainbow.
I got you. Now give me what you promised me. Give it here. Come on.
Yes. Take me back to my CD back in the 1990s that got so much play it almost wore out. Those little bits of the laser just tear it away at that plastic disc. Yes. Oh my gosh. This soundtrack, guys, look, I know we're about to talk about the movie, but that sound, when I hear that, there were songs, of course, on this soundtrack that I'd never heard before. And the greatest thing that Quentin Tarantino did with Reservoir Dogs was absolutely kick the door open on obscure 70s music and sent me down this rabbit hole immediately, right from this soundtrack into, I got to go look up Joe Tex. I got to look up Steeler's Wheel. I got to look up all of these things because, and I became, like everybody else did, familiar with Karen Rackman, who, you know, was the music supervisor. Like I started to pay attention for movies with music supervisors because I was like, okay, you know who your gold standard top of the line music supervisor is going from this point forward. I love I Gotcha. That is one of the best jams ever. And that scene in the movie, oh, it's so good. It's so good. So
the way that it hits is perfect. And this was great because there was hardly any, if any, orchestrated music. It was all just music from the 70s. It was all just popular music, pre-made, canned. And that was rare. It's not like he was the first to ever do it, but it was rare. And this was a movie that came out in 1992. It's an hour and 39 minutes long, rated R. And originally this was going to be, I think Tarantino had something like, it was either like $15,000 or $50,000, and
30,000.
16 millimeter. $30,000. It was $30,000, and he had a 16 millimeter camera. He was going to shoot it in black and white 16 millimeter with him and a bunch of his friends. Like he's just like, if I can't make this movie, you know, professionally, then I got to get it done. And I think when he was working with Tony Scott had two scripts. It was True Romance and Reservoir Dogs. And Tony Scott said, I want Reservoir Dogs. And Tarantino said, no, that's mine. You can have True Romance. Well, and I think it worked out.
Oh, it definitely did. And Reservoir Dogs, part of its story as well is that it found its way into Harvey Keitel's hands. And Keitel shepherded this through because he saw, I mean, in all seriousness, it's about just the right person seeing something at the right time. And bless Harvey Keitel for reading the script and realizing, oh, this could be something. This could be something special. Not in terms of like, I'm going to make $1 billion movie and the Reservoir Dogs connected universe. But he was like, this is something people would want to see. And that is from the perspective of somebody who, I mean, Keitel's been in the industry how many years, but decades by this point, 2-3 decades by this point. And he's got the eye. He's worked with Ridley Scott. He's worked with Martin Scorsese. He reads Reservoir Dogs and he says, oh, this is something. Like, if you want something that just has an immediate stamp of approval, somebody who's an industry veteran who's worked with some of the greats looks at your script and says, oh, this is something people should see. I mean, come on. Like, how does Tarantino not walk on cloud nine after that? Even if the film never happened, he could like walk around with it, be like, Harvey Keitel, he thought this was pretty special. Like, that's huge.
And Keitel put his money where his mouth is, and he produced. He said, he's like, not only will I star in it, I'll produce it as well. And like him being attached to it got the budget up to $1.5 million. And this was an indie movie when indie movies were still a thing. Like, this is when I didn't phrase that right. It's when indie movies, how do I phrase it, John? What am I looking for here?
It was more difficult to get an independent film in front of people. I think that would be a fair comment.
It's like pre-internet, really.
Oh, yeah.
Like the birth of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of that wave in the 90s that saw Tarantino come in. It saw Kevin Smith come in. And it's the last Rodriguez. It's the last great wave of the small movie that launches a career. But that entry point was that much more difficult because to get in front of Joe Average like myself, you needed a guiding saint like Harvey Keitel to get you there. You needed somebody that was going to be able to shepherd you through the system to get it distributed. And because today you can kickstart something, you can just throw it out there on YouTube if you really want to. You can scramble the money together. Back then, it was a much more arcane art and knowing the right person. I mean, you mentioned it right there. Tarantino is ready to just make the thing just on a lark and just be like, look, I'm just going to make the thing. It's going to be $30,000. Who cares if anybody sees it? I'm just going to throw it together. You could look at it like Following with Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
It's black and white, keep the costs down. I'm going to cast people who aren't going to ask for a lot of money. And then the right person comes along and boom, all of a sudden it's a sensation.
Well, you have El Mariachi with Rodriguez, where he literally sold his blood in order to get the money,
right?
To make it. And I think it's funny that you mention, the difficulties of getting a breakout, or like this was the last realm of getting a breakout role, because like now you can do it yourself. It's so much easier to do it yourself. You can post it on YouTube and everything like that. But at the time I was watching it, I started thinking about how that in itself, what you're describing, is a double-edged sword, because if this movie was made today, it'd be slapped on Netflix and it would be lost in the shuffle completely.
Absolutely agree with you. It's almost like the monster has eaten its own tail, sort of thing. I like that you bring that up, because it really is. This gets tossed on Prime and it's hot for like 2 seconds and it's really super obscure. Whereas this becomes a cultural phenom. It doesn't even really, it doesn't do like killer box office or anything. It's not like they released this and it made $50 million. I don't think it barely made its budget back.
Well, they didn't promote it. Man, before we keep going, okay, so as you can tell, John and I are really passionate.
Too.
Yes, Darren Moser is here too.
My bad.
John and I are very passionate about this movie, and we've seen it many times before. But Darren, I needed to cut John and I off because I want to talk to you about this. Darren, this is your first time seeing Reservoir Dogs, is that correct?
It is. The vast majority of the house of Tarantino I have not seen. So you found me an elder millennial who has not seen a lot of Tarantino, and it's going to be a fun ride.
So I know we're jumping the gun here. I know we're absolutely jumping the gun, but this was the first thing that I thought about when watching it. Was I was thinking about you and catching it for the very first time. What did you think about Mr. Orange being a cop, an undercover cop? Like, was it a surprise?
Like the twist at the
did
end,
you see it coming? What was it?
Yeah, I mean, all I knew about this movie going forward is, that kind of them fighting in the warehouse, kind of guys aiming guns at each other. For some reason, I thought this whole movie would take place in that warehouse. It'd be like a bottle show where, hey, for simplicity, you don't see the heist, you don't see anything. It's all just told by the group. Now, obviously, we get a little more than that. We get a non-linear story of telling the events as we pop out and back and forth in time. That twist I didn't see coming. It was interesting. About halfway through the movie, I started to think, okay, what am I being told as an audience member watching this? Because I started to realize, am I supposed to piece together this mystery? Because the main characters are going deep down the rabbit hole of, there's a rat and who is it? And I think I've watched so many movies where that ends up being just a throwaway thing that I wasn't even invested in it at first. But then the more I thought about it, it was more like, oh no, that's the point of this movie, is you don't see the event, so you can't make a judgment on who's the rat. You have to go off of everybody's conceived notions. And and I recognized Tim Roth or Mr. Orange from Lie to Me. He was the lead on a show. That's where I mainly know him from. I know he's been in many things, but yeah, I just, as far as that particular plot point, I didn't see it coming, but it also, by the time we got there were so few options of who it could have been. Like the palette of suspects got smaller and smaller. And so you started to be like, well, it's really only this Mr. Blue shows up randomly. We've like never seen, and they kept saying, Mr. Brown or like someone else is dead. And I'm like, well, until we see a body, I am not taking any of these words for gospel.
Well, what I want to know, though, in that context, okay, so you didn't really know anything. It didn't necessarily take you, quote unquote, by surprise. But that moment, I remember specifically the first time I saw Mr. Blonde light the lighter and say, are you finished? Are you finished? And you're like, oh my gosh, I just saw somebody. What am I about to watch? I just saw his ear get cut off. What is going to happen right now? And then all of a sudden the squibs explode on his chest and he gets shot. And it's Mr. Orange shooting him. I remember at the moment that I saw it, I was like, what just happened? Right? It just took me completely by surprise. Did that at least take you by surprise? Did that pull the rug out from under you? I mean, like, what was in that moment? Yeah. What was the feeling? That
moment for sure. I mean, it's a pop and get you moment. I was more, as we were leading up to, I did know that there was like a torture scene and a guy got his ear cut off and that. And I was more curious what song was going to play. And I'm like, is there a song that is now going to be ruined for me because of this scene? And not terribly so, but
more like improved.
Yeah. Talk about a dance that I do every time I hear that song.
It's so terrible. But no, at that moment, yeah, he's getting doused in gasoline and you're like, okay, like, I mean, I'm like, Tarantino's going to go as far as he wants to go. Anything could happen and it would not surprise me. And then you know what it felt like? It felt like the end of the first Saw movie. That kind of like didn't see it coming.
Oh, wow. That's quite a compliment. That's huge.
What this felt like, where all of a sudden, because Tarantino had constructed the lead up to that where I'd forgotten about Mr. Orange. Like he's there, but he's passed out. Like he is not in play in this scene. And then all of a sudden he's pumping Mr. Blonde full of lead. And you're like, oh. And then he reveals that he's a cop to the other cop. And you're like, oh, this is a whole sting. Oh my gosh. And yeah, that's where, like, I don't know if I would say the second act starts, but really the second push starts at that point. So that moment did get me.
That's where I think a name that gets lost in the shuffle a lot is Tarantino's editor here, Sally Menke. I think that's how you pronounce her last name.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Mank or Menke.
But she does not get enough praise because you just said it right there. You forget Mr. Orange is there. Even now, this is the 1.5 time that I've seen this movie. Yes, I paid attention to it at this point where I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this with some smart film people here. And it's one of those things where you go, the film does such a good job of gently moving Mr. Orange out of the way so that when that happens, even now, the number of times I've seen it, when that first squib goes off, I still jump a little bit where I'm like, oh, right. Okay. Yes, him. And it's, I think that there is also in that scene, The Simpsons even made fun of it when the camera pans away when he's cutting the ear off. Yes. It's so effective because what it reminded me of is, back then and now and everything is there's a specific scene in Taxi Driver where he's getting, where he's getting his heart broken over the phone. And all of this horrible stuff you see throughout the film, and it just looks at it unflinchingly. But then the camera moves away from Bickle while he's on the phone, as if it can't stand to look at that moment. And I think that it's both a budgetary thing, because I think later Tarantino, spoilers for you, Darren, there are going to be moments where maybe I wish Tarantino had pulled the camera away from certain things.
I was going to say, modern Tarantino never would have panned or tracked to the left.
Exactly.
Never.
Exactly.
But that pan and the
it's
end
so effective.
with Mr. Orange at the very end, honestly, I mean, that I think is just for, seeing a bullet fly through a man's face is one thing, but in a way, not seeing the ear physically get cut off is worse, because your imagination is 10 times more vivid than anything you could be shown. It could look fake and you're like, oh, well, that's not really that, but you're hearing, through duct tape, the screams of a man who's getting his ear cut off. Like, that sticks with you.
It absolutely does. And I think that if there's a calling card scene to this movie, it's that one.
Oh,
like, everybody goes back to that. But I'd be interested, because again, you are the first person, not the first person, you're the person who's watching this for the first time. What other scenes jumped out at you? Like, did the movie get you from the very beginning? Was it, because I remember this movie got me from the very beginning, because there's both a blessing and a curse here, because Tarantino's discussion about what Like a Virgin is about is both at the time a blisteringly original and funny thing, but over time it became I
off-putting.
Yeah, well, it becomes trite, the way that people start to deconstruct things, and you're like, no, there's not that many layers to it, guys. Right? This started a trend of people breaking things down too much and taking it super seriously, and you're like, no. There aren't that many layers to it.
Apparently, Madonna liked the scene and liked the movie a lot, and sent him an autographed copy of her album Erotica, and said, "No, it's not about that. It's about love."
Yes, well, and then you later, there's so many, but there are so many things where it kicks that off. But did the movie get you from the very start? Like, were you hooked from the beginning?
It did. Well, because, the first part I remember is again, Mr. Orange bleeding out in the back of the car. And that, again, I had never seen someone being shot portrayed like that. The whimpering pain. I mean, we always see someone getting the shot and they're like either quiet or they're like just not this way that this person is portraying it. And you almost start to think, like, is he faking? You're like, no, there's a lot of blood. Like, he has definitely been shot. But I like, full circle, how, that becomes a plot point in the fact that, oh, he can't be the bad guy or the rat because he was shot. And we finally see it's not a cop that shot him. It's a woman who the car that they jacked, like, defensively shot. And again, it's all about how you are told the story. Because, oh, well, if I was told that, or if I saw that from the beginning, I would think completely differently than, oh, he was in the robbery and was shot, must not be the rat. Again, I'm not being lied to. It's just how the information is revealed. So that came full circle. I was gripped the entire way. I will agree. The deconstruction scenes, I mean, like you said, I think Tarantino's kind of known for that. And it, like you'd mentioned before with like Kevin Smith, like, it felt like, I'm a film student and I'm really into X, and then I'm going to take X and put it into my plot. Like, I would put tons of NASA crap in my movie or whatever. Like, again, not a bad thing, but it felt like I didn't feel like these characters really cared about this. I felt like the writer cared about this, knew a lot about this topic, or had an opinion and put it in. Again, not a bad thing. It's just, that's how it came across.
But see, I think that this one, more than some of Tarantino's other examples, and more than a Kevin Smith moment or anything like that, is what I like is that everybody at the table is Tarantino, as a director, takes the time to show you that nobody cares what this guy is talking about.
Right.
Where they're like, what? This guy's nuts. Like, what is he going on about even? And, even, I admire the fact that it's so unpolished at the beginning of this, when the camera is tracking around that table of everybody at breakfast. And it's interesting to me because Tarantino has a lot more polish later in his filmography.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think it would have come together the same way. I think that you can go immediately to Kill Bill and stuff like that, but spoilers for the future and everything. But here there's an unpolished feel to the way it tracks around that table that I think pulls the audience in And again, it's a tribute, I think, to Menke, where she keeps it. I think that and Tristan, correct me if I'm off base on this. I think from an editorial standpoint, there feels like a conscious decision not to make it smoother as it's tracking around, because there are moments where you're hearing dialogue and there's just, you've disappeared behind the back of somebody and it's black screen. Whereas I think a lot of editors would have chosen to be like, no, I got to make sure a face is showing in this moment, but it takes that extra second or two so that it feels more documentary, like it's just a you happen to be sitting there sort of feel. Do you think that was a conscious thing?
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like when I was watching it, like a part of me was just like, why didn't you cut like a half second earlier? Like why didn't you cut like literally 10 frames earlier to help adjust that cut? But she did it 3 times. And 3 times is on purpose. 1 time might be a mistake. 1 time might be because of lack of coverage or something like that. 3 times is a motif. And I think that's the thing, is that, excuse me. So sorry. With Menke, she's so underappreciated, God rest her. And she has helped. She is the reason why Tarantino is a household name. And that is 100% my belief. She is, she is Quentin's Schumacher. 100%. And there is no Marty without Thelma, and there is no Quentin without Menke. And I feel like she knows what she's doing, and her agent didn't want her to do this movie. And she's like, no, I'm doing this movie. Like, everybody involved wanted to do this movie. And I think that's what's really killer. And that's what really pushes it up. And so to get back to your question, it had to be on purpose because of her level of skill and because she did it more than once in that scene. And so I think this is the only time we see it in the movie. And so I think it had to be an introductory move where you focus on what they're saying and not as much on what you're seeing.
Yeah.
I think that's the main purpose, in my opinion.
The other thing I always try to think of with movies, especially ones that are, this isn't that old, it's 92, but it's still in the era of, it's so easy for us to look at older movies and be like, oh yeah, but they're doing the, the deconstructed, over the shoulder shot, or, oh yeah, they're doing this. Like, everyone does that. It's like, no, but no one had done it yet. Like, you have to remember that. And it's hard to remember exactly what was new or newish or had been done in a new way. Again, like the use of music and a lot of diegetic music, which is where it's actually in the scene. It's actually being played over a piece of equipment and our characters are listening to it at the same time as we are. So all that to say, I was able to view this movie in that lens of, okay, give it a little more credit for these nuances, because it's easy to look back and be like, this is what everyone was impressed with, and it's like, no, it's impressive.
See, I love that you mentioned that, because the two of you come up in the post Tarantino world. You're young enough that, like, Tarantino changed what film was by the time you guys had both gotten old enough to really appreciate film. And while I'm not, I didn't go to film school or anything like that, I was a huge movie buff. And there's this thing where it's like, when you get older, you get to this point where you're like, yeah, but you don't remember what it was before this. And it's easy to be perfunctorily dismissive of younger people because of that. But in this case, I find it as a sense of joy to say, I wish I could convey to everybody the absolute miracle that this moment was in film, to say this changed everything. I was there for the moonshot of independent filmmaking at this point. And it's like, I can't even accurately portray to you guys the frustration of loving that moment And what's cute is everybody can agree on the moonshot. Everybody can agree on a space shuttle. But my friend Joey and I can disagree about Reservoir Dogs. and I can say, no, it's absolute gold. It's art. And Joey can say, I don't like that everybody dies at the end. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Whatever. It's no big deal.
I can't remember. I read that I can't remember what magazine it was, but it was some important editorial that ranked it as the top influential independent movie of all time. And also like a top 10 or top 15 heist movie of all time, which is really saying something because you never actually see
the
heist.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, you mentioned Tony Scott earlier. Tony Scott does Beverly Hills Cop 2, and he has a heist in the beginning of that. And I almost wonder if Tony Scott had done this, if he would have been unable to resist the desire to have the heist inserted into the script.
It would have been the first thing you saw. It would absolutely, like, Tony Scott, as much as I love him as a filmmaker, this Reservoir Dogs would not have made the impact that it did because it would have been a by the books action film.
I think you're right.
I think you're right. I think it would have been a 1992. It would have been an early version of Heat.
Ooh, interesting. I could see that. And the thing is, that's what makes him even more perfect for true romance, because of the fact that there's no heist per se that's going on with that. So he has to scratch that specific itch with when he goes to Drexel's pad to take the Bama's stuff back. I think that's a great insight. I really like that.
Now, Darren, originally Quentin Tarantino wrote the script with him in mind for Mr. Pink, Steve Buscemi's character.
Right, because Mr. Pink is kind of him and Mr. Orange. Well, Mr. Orange and Mr. Blonde feel like the top characters. And it's hard. There's a lot of mix. But sorry, go ahead. He was writing him.
I don't know I feel like Mr. White and Mr. Orange are kind of the top characters. I feel like they're the protagonists, but that's neither here nor there. Mr. Pink, Steve Buscemi, Tarantino wanted to be that character, and was going to cast himself in it. And this is kind of a dickish move, but when Buscemi came in and said that he wanted to audition for Pink, he's like, well, I want to do that role. So if you want this role, you're going to have to really kill it. And obviously he did.
Oh yeah.
But Darren, can you see Tarantino as Mr. Pink?
No.
What do you think about that?
He is just enough as Mr. Brown, barely being in it. That is the right place, especially as the director. I mean, he's not an actor. Like, he's really not. Like, he can, if he wrote it and directed it and produced it and edited it, yeah, he can put himself anywhere. But Buscemi, he's got the whole first act is really that's what I mean more is Mr. Pink is the first act. He's setting up so much. He's having conversations.
Yeah.
He's
I get what you're
describing all of that. That's where I feel like, I know eventually it's less and less screen time as more people show up at the warehouse. But that's where I have always latched on to him as really one of you have to nail this character or your setup is void.
And Steve Buscemi's career is launched off of this, hands down. Like
I see it.
Oh my God. Like, after Reservoir Dogs, everybody was like, I love that guy. I want to see that guy in more things. And you did. And thank goodness that you did. But also, simply going, keying off what you're saying, simply Tarantino is the only person in that cast that is going to give that like a virgin speech authentically, because you can tell that is something that's in Tarantino's, like, knowing Tarantino well enough at this point.
The script says, and then Mr. Brown says what is in Tarantino's head verbatim.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because originally in the script, Mr. Pink gave that speech.
Wow. And then when he wasn't Mr. Pink anymore, all of a sudden Mr. Brown is going to deliver that.
But here's the killer thing is you have that great like a virgin speech, but the truly memorable moment from that is the I don't tip moment.
Yes.
I don't tip.
True.
Like,
it's true.
It's mind-blowing how perfect Steve Buscemi was for that moment too. Like, it's so serendipitous, the casting in this movie.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And again, that also feels like, and I remember doing this as a film student. It's like, oh yeah, this thing happened to me at one time and it was cool. And I put it in a movie. Like that totally sounds like something that happened, or he knew a guy that had that opinion, or maybe he had that opinion about tipping. And it's enough to write like an essay on. And then it becomes, but yeah, that part, man, Buscemi gets so many great scenes, even later, the whole like naming where he's like, well, I don't want to be Mr. Big. Like he nails that scene in the pitch perfect way where you're not like, it doesn't change how you feel about this character. It makes you love this character more because he's like, this is kind of stupid. Why am I Mr. Big? And then the guy's like, no, I choose. Last time I had everyone choose.
Everybody wanted to be Mr. Black. Nobody wanted to back down because I didn't know each other. And Lawrence Tierney in his role, I can honestly say I think I know him from his Seinfeld cameo.
Oh,
and
that's not the cameo I knew him from.
Oh, what cameo did you know him from?
I recognized him and I'm like, this guy sounds really familiar. And I probably am wrong, but I looked it up and no, he plays in TNG's The Big Goodbye, Silas Redblock. He's the hologram that like bullies his way off the holodeck and then evaporates because he doesn't exist. But
computer, I don't know this word.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I knew him from.
What's great is that, according to the Wikipedia page, at least, the cast didn't like Lawrence Tierney.
Yeah,
like they were fed up with him, and it's like it. I don't know if
maybe
it helped.
Joe was supposed to show up earlier, and they're like, "No, just keep delaying
right?
that.
Yeah,
we don't want Joe.
We're gonna rewrite a little bit, and Joe just shows up at the end and gets shot. And like people were fighting for the right to shoot Joe.
He's like, I know I'm already dead, but can I come back and shoot Joe? Because that'd be a thing.
What's really funny is that like Lawrence Tierney he was a jackass in real life, and like he was like in jail during shooting. They only shot for 35 days, and he was in jail at one time. They had to bail him out, and then he went straight to set because I think he like punched some dude or pulled a gun on him. I can't remember, but him and Michael Madsen really didn't get along, and Quentin had to intervene, kind of like get in between them, and he goes to Tierney and says, he's like, okay, I need you to be cool. Are you cool? And then Keitel loved that so much that he's like, I want to say that.
Nice. But you know what's interesting is Tierney by this point, he's an old guy. He's been around forever. He's a cantankerous old sort. He's the old school sort of thing. The story you just relayed reminds me of how Burton was bullied by Jack Palance on the set of Batman, and it was like Nicholson.
You're going to tell this story.
Of course you did, because we're Batman people, and like Nicholson has to come in and be like, "Okay, go. Let's take a breath here. Let's take a breath here. Let's just be cool. We're making art," and it's fascinating because while Batman wasn't Burton's first one, it's the one that catapults him, and it's thank goodness somebody was there to Tarantino. You got to give him credit for that. As a director, to be able to cool things down, because that's part of your necessary skill set as a director. Is you might hate each other in real life. It's almost like pro wrestling. Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart might hate each other in real life, but you got to get them to cool down so that the kayfabe can work. Because if it's too much, and I know that the two guys I'm talking to right now, that went over their heads, but anybody old like me who watched pro wrestling knows what I'm talking about.
To you listeners, I'm sure you're enjoying these references.
Everybody knows Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Come on. Everybody knows that. Watch Wrestling with Shadows. Great documentary.
So speaking of Michael Madsen, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Blonde.
Oh, yeah.
Did he bring this performance? Because this is it would have been so easy to play a psychopath, and you know what I mean. You know what I mean by this. Like a psychopath as in like, I'm a crazy. Just like he's constantly on the edge. He's just like, like he's sniffing and like looking over his shoulder and everything like that. No, he is cold as ice. He's a sociopath. As he's a sociopath more than he is a psychopath. And he loves what he does, and he has no compunction over what he does. It's just, when I think Michael Madsen, I think this role.
Oh, Yes, this was a star-making role for him. And I think that the brilliant little bit of stage business that they give to him is that when you meet him in the warehouse, he's sipping a drink. He stopped off for food, guys. He stopped off to get a bite to eat.
I noticed that. I'm like, where did he get the drink? Like, that implies that he was chill enough to like get a drink. And I'm like, what is going on?
He's got a cop in the trunk and he stopped off for fast food.
So apparently in real life, so like that was Michael Madsen's car, the one that actually he drove.
Great taste in automobiles, my friend.
Yeah, like
good Lord.
That's Madsen's car. And we're actually going to see that car again in a later Tarantino film. But it was this movie had such little money that people brought their own clothes, and like that's why you get Chris Pin's nice guy Eddie, like his track jacket, like that's his that he brought. But apparently Kirk Baltz, who played Marvin Nash, the cop who got tortured, he went to Madsen and said, he's like, I want to get in your trunk. I want to know what it's like drive around the block. And Madsen's like, okay, yeah, sure. I'll drive around the block. And he did not drive around the block. He drove around town, and then he went to get some tacos in a drive-through, and then went back just to give him that little extra bit.
I was going to say, I would not.
Oh my gosh.
I would not get in that guy's trunk.
I love that so much because I
forgot I left a bowling ball in the trunk. Sorry. I hope it didn't smash your fingers.
But the thing is, like, that's the sort of thing that's that Stanislavski sort of thing where it's like it gives so much more authenticity to the way they interact with each other, because even if he's cool with that, like it's still like that felt like more than around the block, Mike. Like there's still a little bit of animosity left over from that, and that you can use that in a scene. And I think, I think honestly, I'm glad that you mentioned you mentioned Kirk Baltz, because I think he gets forgotten a lot of times. Yes. His performance is very key to this movie. Very, very key to this movie. And I think he gets overshadowed by the names that went on to do more Tarantino films and also have larger trajectories as actors.
Now, speaking of authenticity, though, Eddie Bunker, who played Mr. Blue, he's a career criminal in real life, and spent he was the youngest person in San Quentin, when he was there. This guy was a delinquent for a long time and actually did a heist or two. I can't remember. And he was, I think, the role of Voight, John Voight's role in Heat, was based off of Eddie Bunker.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I could really see that. My goodness, I can really see that. Yeah.
And I think like an interviewer asked him about the movie, and he said he's like, yeah, this movie is completely unrealistic. He's like, first of all, you're not going to do a heist job with people you don't know. And also on top of that, you're not all going to get together for breakfast the day before. Or like the day of, it's just like people are going to remember, like 6-7 guys in black suits at a breakfast joint before a
they
diamond
kept talking
heist.
About each other with like colors. I don't know. It was weird, and one of them wouldn't tip. And yeah.
Well, I think that he has such a small role in the movie, but what's great is I think that even that sort of thing where he has that small role, and even Mr. Brown having the small role, and the moments that they get, what I think really helps Reservoir Dogs is the fact that you feel like these guys have stories that you didn't see leading up to this. You feel that Mr. Blue has had a lifetime doing this sort of thing. You have a sense, especially when you see his death scene, that Mr. Brown is the type of guy that fell into this life and is in over his head. He doesn't belong here truly. He's doing this, but he's not a Mr. White. He's not a Larry. He's not a nice guy Eddie. He's just there. And you don't get enough of Mr. Pink, except for the fact that when you see him running from the cops, he's the one that keeps saying, be a professional, and you get that sense of he knows what to do when things go wrong. sort of thing. But I think that what's really great about all of these characters is they feel like they have lives before you meet them. And I think that, Eddie Bunker is the one that really helps sell that. Even in his very tiny role, he really helps sell the idea that all of these guys have a history leading up to this moment.
Now, we were talking about, underappreciated roles, especially with Kirk Baltz as Marvin Nash. I think someone who really, really gets overlooked is Chris Penn as Nice Guy Eddie.
Oh, yeah.
He does an absolute phenomenal job with this. Where like when he finally shows up at the mortuary and he's assessing the situation and figuring out what's going on, just the sheer, just the anger and the confusion, and like he knows he's going to get ripped a new one from his dad, and he's just like trying to piece it all together, and he knows he's on Mr. Blonde's side, but at the same time, like he probably understands that he probably went crazy. It's just like he's able to encapsulate all of that together. Like, Darren, was there a standout performance to you with all these guys? Like, were you just like, yeah, Mr. White's where it's at, Mr. Blonde's where it's at, or was it all just kind of like a truly ensemble?
Really, like Mr. Brown, I couldn't get enough of Mr. Brown. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was yeah. Love you, Tarantino.
Give me more Madonna stories.
Oh man, gosh, yeah. I mean, it's like you said, Nice Guy Eddie. I felt like walked off the street, like he just was that role. And totally believable character, smart character. I love it when my villains are smart. So he knows what to do. He knows the next steps to take. I love when he's sussing out like, wait, so you're telling me that this guy who's basically completely loyal, like wouldn't flip in jail, but now is all of a sudden going to steal these diamonds and shot you, like, and you're like, oh yeah, that was a bad story to fib for, like, we're done. But God, it's hard because, yeah, like you said, I mean, Mr. White and Orange and Blonde, they're all. I would just say, I think if I had to pick a favorite character, and this is probably more just on temperament than as opposed to like piece of the pie of the story, is Mr. Pink, is Steve Buscemi. He was just so good in this. I wanted more of him, and again, like little things. Like you were saying, John, he's like, oh, be a professional. Like, okay, he's been around the block a few times. Like the fact that he was smart enough to stash the diamonds somewhere else, because he's probably been in a heist where they all got together, or he got there first with the, diamonds and or the loot, and then somebody shot him in the back or something like that. So, yeah, I would say Mr. Pink. I would love to see more of him.
And I mean, and thankfully, like we hear John popping a 40 to just kind of for all the fallen homies,
pouring one out for him. But to come back to Penn, in all honesty, I think that Chris Penn it's interesting because Sean Penn, everybody knows Sean Penn's filmography. It's a little bit more selective. He's
Chris Penn.
I know. I'm going to Sean Penn, and I'm saying they're related.
Okay.
Sean Penn has a shorter filmography.
Wait, they both have the last name Penn? They're related?
He's much more, selective and stuff like that. But Chris Penn is much more of a journeyman actor. He left us too soon. He was 40 when he died of heart disease. Like, that is heartbreaking. I don't mean to say it that way, but because of heart disease and everything. But like,
yeah, he died almost 20 years ago.
He was
That's insane.
So good. Every time Chris Penn showed up, and I love him as Nice Guy Eddie when he has his eyes flare. When you see that he's like, okay, Mr. Orange, you're telling me, like, you can tell the rage that he's sitting on in that moment because his friend has been killed, right? It's a brilliant acting moment, and everybody should do a favor for themselves and go and see a very obscure little movie that's not great, but it's good, and he's great in it, called Best of the Best from the 1980s. Go ahead and catch that movie. Chris Penn is a treat. I miss him. I'm glad he's also in True Romance that comes out a year after this. He's so good in everything that he does. Like, even if the movie sucks, Chris Penn is good. And it's just a testament to him that he's here. And to your point, Darren, he stands out in a sea of talent like this. Like, that is no small feat to be so good that I can call out certain moments. That scene where he's on the phone talking with the guy about how mad his dad is going to be at him. It's such a great scene, and it's played so well because he's sitting there like, yeah. I know dad's going to be okay, fine. Okay. It's messed up. Dad's on his way right now. Like, it's so authentic, even though, Chris Penn has never been in a situation like this. And he's was such a terrific talent.
I think you really hit it on the head there that this movie, even though it's not authentic, we have no idea what authentic is. Like, just like with what Eddie Bunker was talking about. He's just like, no, this is really X, Y, Z. This doesn't happen. The fact that none of us know what authentic is, but yet it feels authentic to the masses, to us, I think is a real testament to Tarantino's writing and direction, where you can put this together and it feels different. This is not a sleek blockbuster where things go right all the time until we have that one dramatic thing where something goes wrong. This feels like it's homegrown. Like, this feels like real life. Like, this feels like real people who do this as a job. Like, this is their job. This is their career. And it's, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm articulating it well. It just feels like real, in a real world with real people.
But here's the question. We're sitting here, we're effusively praising the film. None of us have taken the time to talk about where the film might fall short.
The Commode story. Oh my God. The Commode story is too long. It kills the momentum. It kills it. It slams it to a halt.
I agree. I remember watching the film for the first time and loving it. And I'm totally on board. And the Commode story sitting there like, okay, let's keep, like, it threw me off because I was like, okay. And then the movie takes an extra beat to get moving. Darren, did you get the same sense? This is your first time viewing it. Did you feel the Commode story killed everything and it had to restart?
It definitely felt like, whether this was the purpose of it or not, like it was padding the runtime. Like, oh, we got to we don't want to be
100%.
an animated length for like a kid's movie. We got to, pad out those numbers. Honestly, if they had just shown, like, and I kind of get why they're showing it. They want to, again, but I feel like by now we've established that Mr. Orange sold it. We know it obviously worked. So just have his handler, say, well, you got to do the Commode story. Cut. Don't show him tell it or the actual story. Just give us that. Just give us and I'll be like, what's the Commode story? Leave us hanging on that. And obviously it worked. Or maybe a tiny bit of him telling it with the group. Maybe he just wrapped it up and then it was in the Commode. And they're all like, oh, like, and we could tell. We don't know what it's like when you want a character to give a really good speech and you don't show the speech, but you show the aftermath, and you're like, well, anything I could have written is not going to be as good as what your mind imagines what he said. So yeah, I could totally have cut out the Commode story. It, I was watching it with the Tristan eye. Oh, it grinds the story to a halt. But yeah, it wasn't necessary. We're on our way towards the climax for sure. And I felt like really the core is we already know who Mr. Orange is. And even the other little cutbacks of him like getting ready that morning and psyching himself up. That was great. Those are great little world building into his psyche. That also leads up to seeing how he got shot. But yeah, no Commode story.
See, I love the way you put it too, is you could have had his handler talking to him about the Commode story. And maybe even his handler sitting there and you hear a piece of it while he's walking around and the handler saying, no, you got to really sell this, and then sell the very end of it and have everybody's reaction
or whatever.
Yeah. Say, oh, you can really handle these things. That's wow. That you're so cool
at the end
under
of the
pressure.
day, it doesn't matter what the commode story is. It
Yes.
matters that he tells a very convincing story that he knows in his mind so well that any questions they ask, he can drop the answer in a moment. But that it got overshadowed by the actual telling of the story.
Now,
So Tarantino didn't learn his own rule about not showing the heist. Don't show the commode story. Same principle.
And then you also see that Tarantino is really, this is a freshman take. It's a freshman movie.
Yeah.
You know, like you see that he's experimenting with different things, like, you know, the cops are staring at him for an exceptionally long time. Right. He's
when he
standing
hits
in front of the cop
of the
like the jet plane. Like he's standing in front of the cops telling them the story as the camera does a Michael Bay swirl around him. Like he's trying. He's trying out new things.
Yeah.
I think that there's also an argument that some of the discussion scenes with Joe, especially, maybe I've seen it too many times, but Nice Guy Eddie and Mr. White, it feels like that scene goes on a little bit too long too, where they're razzing each other. Like the first bit where they're razzing each other feels great, and I'm laughing, and I think it's fantastic. And there's this machismo sort of thing.
You mean Nice Guy Eddie and Mr. Blonde?
Mr. Blonde. I'm sorry. Yes, you're absolutely right.
A very light blonde, like almost white.
Yes, yeah. But it feels like that could have been tightened a little bit too. I think that to your point, what you just said, Tristan, there's a little bit of a freshman. I feel like Mankey's in the editing bay with Tarantino, and he insists on keeping certain things the way that they are. And probably she's sitting there. She's like, I really think we should tighten this. And he's like, no. I really love it. I really love it. And she's like, okay, you're the director. I'll keep it. But this is my opinion. But okay, fine. You win.
Yeah.
I love that.
I feel
fine.
Yeah. The lesson of killing your darlings is probably the hardest for Tarantino to learn.
Well, at this point, yeah. I mean, this is his first movie.
Exactly. He will learn it.
This was such a journey to make this movie. He doesn't go into this, and I think that this is also possibly a lost relic of the time or something like that, where he does not approach this as I'm going to get to make another movie.
Right.
I think you very
one shot.
Right. This is the one movie I'm going to get to make. I'm a video clerk. I'm making my movie. I'm going to make this one thing, and this is going to be it. And I think that maybe some of these flaws that we're talking about, you see him learn where he says, "Oh, I might get to make another movie, so I can practice a little restraint here
to make it slightly better or more receivable."
And then maybe he forgets that lesson later on. Maybe we'll get there too. Who knows?
Well, one last thing with the commode story and our talk of like axing it. Yeah. If you feel like this is it and you've spent how much for that scene, it's really hard to cut. It's really hard to kill your darlings and to be like, no, the movie's better without it, when you feel like you just threw money away. And it's a very hard feeling to get over.
Yeah.
All right. So we touched on a lot of what we liked, and I think we nailed down what we didn't like. And I feel like we're kind of at a natural wrap up. And Darren, because I'm hosting, I'm going to make you go first. This is your first time watching it, and I want to know what are you rating this? This is your first exposure to Tarantino's first film.
Yes. Not my first Tarantino film, but
not your first Tarantino film, but you haven't seen a lot of Tarantino. And what's funny to me is, I'm going to get one last tidbit in before we go into rankings, is Wes Craven walked out of the showing of this film because he thought it was too violent. I'm going to say that again. I
didn't know this. And what?
Wes Craven, the horror director,
who made Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that like Tarantino, I think, publicly said, like the man that directed The Last House on the Left says my film's too violent. And Craven said in response, Last House on the Left is about the evils of violence, and Reservoir Dogs glorifies violence.
What? Oh, what an old old person sort of way to
And it
approach
was a
the violence
superhero
argument.
movie, and I hated it.
Oh, gee, yeah, that's his Scorsese moment. Good call, Darren. No, that's the thing is, like, this goes all the way back to The Godfather, where there's like, oh, you're glorifying the mob, and it's like, not if you paid attention, they're not. Like, there's nothing glorifying violence here.
Yeah, or people watch Starship Troopers, and they're like, oh, if you like that, you must like fascism. It's like, well, if you watch the movie, like, they're taking it to an 11 because it's terrible.
It seems to be a commentary on something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. That I never knew that story, and I wish I didn't, because now it makes me angry about Wes Craven, and I hate it because I love Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and you want to talk about something that glorifies violence. That's a movie for you right there that glorifies violence. It even has a theme song by Dokken that I still love, but that's nuts. That is just
nuts.
No, seriously, it is. It's every time something like Reservoir Dogs comes along, people who are old industry mainstays misinterpret it, and they think it's something that it is not. And there is nothing glorifying violence. Everybody, spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen this, why were you listening up to this point? Everybody dies at the end of this movie. Nobody trusts each other. Everybody's lying, and everybody shoots each other dead by the end of this movie. How on earth do you walk out of this saying, violence, it's pretty awesome?
I think I want to start robbing some jewel stores. It works out great for everybody.
I really, that scene where the cop got his ear cut off, that was a laugh riot. No, you're looking at Mr. Blonde and you're like, he's insane. What on earth? And yes, it becomes a joke to, Stuck in the Middle with You. You can't help but think of that moment and that dance now. But you don't think of it as like, I really think Mr. Blonde was in the right on that one. You just think, whoa, man, people can really go crazy. They can really go like as you can tell, my brain is short circuiting because that's nuts that Wes Craven walked out saying something like that. That is just,
the fact that it's Wes, I think that's the thing, is that it's Wes Craven. It's such a hypocritical thing to say. I think that's what really kills it. Darren, how many years
ratings
are you? Yeah, how many severed years are you giving this film?
Now, so this is interesting because I kind of went back and forth between, do I give myself room for improving? Do I let it stay? Because we're going to be watching a lot of Tarantino movies, for him to improve on, but also judging it on its own merits. So I am giving Reservoir Dogs a 4. I think is a solid movie. The violence really wasn't there's extreme moments. It's definitely, it gets its R for its language. Oh my gosh. I'm really glad I watched this with headphones because it is a language R.
I watched it with headphones too.
Hard R in many ways.
Yes. But no, I think none of the violence was gratuitous. None of it was and again, even the key violent moments were panned away. And I think that worked for this movie. And apparently that won't always be the case. So I'm preparing myself. But no, I think this is good. I get the vibe. I see why people were like, oh, we will watch your career with great interest. So it's 4 colors of the rainbow.
Darren, I'm not Darren. You already gave yours, John.
Yeah. Okay. It is incredibly difficult to view this honestly. This is a movie where I remember how it affected me, how it impacted me, and how much it blew my mind, how much I loved it all the way back when I saw it for the first time, when I got the soundtrack, when I read everything about it. This came along at just the right time of life for me. I was a young man, and movies were what they were, and then this comes along, and it's like a splash of cold water, and you're like, oh my gosh, how can anything be better than this. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. This is Cool Ranch Doritos. Doritos were one thing, and then Cool Ranch came along. You were like, I remember Cool Ranch Doritos coming along. I was like, this is amazing. Doritos can be a different thing. Oh my God.
Sex?
Right. Oh. What happened? Have I entered another dimension? What is reality? But there are moments where, like the Commode story, like the Mr. Blonde, Nice Guy Eddie stuff, it goes on a little too long. And there is, as I watch it, something that feels unpolished that I know Tarantino is going to polish later. And while I am not going to give it a 4 like Darren, because I believe in the half star, because it is a complete cheat to make 5 stars into 10, I will give this 4.5, because while the Commode story goes too long, it doesn't go long enough where I'm like, okay, I'm bored. It's just getting to the okay, I'm bored part where I'm like, and now we go. And I can look at this movie and I can say, I bet you the next one's going to be something special, because this is somebody who's limited by budget, who's limited by, his career at this point. Like, this is a first film, and this is a solid 4.5 for me. This is somebody who shows so much promise, so much skill in writing and directing and pacing, that it's just a little bit unpolished. So that's a 4.5 years from me.
John, I really echo everything you said. Like, from the Commode to the Blonde and Nice Guy Eddie interaction, I think that's what really knocks it down a half star for me. I can't knock it down a full star, because, as we often say on the show, if the good outweighs the bad, it can counteract the bad a great deal. And so, while I do not think this is a perfect movie, this is phenomenal. It's spectacular. Every time I watch it, I forget how good it actually is. 4.5 stars. This is great. And the 4K transfer,
it's beautiful.
Good Lord. It's absolutely beautiful.
A couple of scenes, the lighting looks a little like, it's a little too bright. It feels like it's a little, but I'll see how the Pulp Fiction 4K transfer looks to know whether the 4K process screwed with the lighting at all. But I agree with you. Overall, this looks gorgeous, including the way that he cheated the slow-mo in the opening sequence. It looks exactly like the cheated slow-mo that I remember from the video days.
Yes, that felt like a conscious decision to me, because this wasn't Wes Anderson in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
This was like, it would have felt a little different if there was smooth slow-mo at the beginning. It's indie, it's raw, it's real, it's gritty. You're getting that jittery slow-mo. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. This has been Houselights, the opening to the House of Tarantino. As you can tell, we are very excited to continue on, and hopefully you guys are excited as well, because this is a director that a lot of you have emailed us, tweeted us, and messaged us saying, why aren't you doing Tarantino? So we're finally doing it, and I am absolutely stoked. Go to thenerdparty.com. Check out all of our other shows. And also, if you want to suggest other directors, go to Facebook, go to Instagram, go to Twitter, go to Blue Sky. You can email us by going to thenerdparty.com/contact and filling out the form. Send us an email. Darren, what are we doing next week?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, like you said, Tristan, we're going into the House of Tarantino. First time in a while we've covered their entire directed works. We're going with 1994's Pulp Fiction here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.